Certainly, I think one of the key benefits of being a member of the World Affairs Council is the opportunity to meet some of the most important policy and decision makers in the world. It's very seldom that you get an intimate opportunity to sit down with the people that are protecting our national interests, creating policy around the world, and having foreign speakers and giving their perspectives on how they view the United States, how we view them, and how they view the world, and how we view the world as well. So I think it's an interesting discourse. It gives us an opportunity to share our thoughts with others, and others to share their thoughts with us, which is a rare opportunity. I think a lot of people see a lot of television. I think a lot of people are doing research on the internet. But it's not the same. It's not the same as that physical presence, the interactive capabilities of being able to ask these people questions, in many cases, the opportunity to actually physically meet them and converse with them. So that's very rare today in a busy world, and to have access to people of this caliber is a rare thing and an incredible benefit of the World Affairs Council. One of the interests that I have in being actively involved in the World Affairs Council is the opportunity to meet all people from parts of the community here. World affairs and current events impact every stratum of society, and I'm most interested in young people and engaging with young people as they're beginning, basically from high school all the way through college. Those people that are beginning their lives. We need an educated workforce. It's not educated only in schools and books. We need people that are educated in the ways of the world. And as Friedman said, the world is getting very flat. So those are skills that are absolutely essential for our young people to have. So encouraging them to be involved and having the opportunity to meet with these young people. I wouldn't say mentor them, but the opportunity to converse with them and have somebody who's possibly seen a lot more of the world than they have. I think it's an incredible opportunity for them to interface not only with me, but some incredibly talented people that make up the senior leadership, the board here, and the trustees at the World Affairs Council. So a great discourse amongst ourselves, but more importantly, a great discourse with the young people and a great discourse with the community. Well, as I mentioned earlier on, the idea is that it's not just our outreach to people coming to visit us and telling them what they think, but the opportunity for the World Affairs Council to reach out to these speakers themselves. Also the platform that the World Affairs Council offers. There are not that many of them in the country. This is a very robust group. It says something about the community, and it says something to the speakers, and it gives us an opportunity, I think, to stand on a platform to be able to reach out to people of this caliber and explain who San Antonians are and what we are doing and why it's important and why we think the world is important to us, and to why we believe the world should be important to San Antonio. You're getting an insider's look at what's going on in the sort of halls of power, especially. I think one of the most intriguing was, and I can't think of the gentleman's name, but he was a recently announced spy, and his travels in Russia with his wife, who was also clandestine, and they didn't share completely what they got up to, but they had. It was really fascinating to meet sort of somebody straight out of a Clancy novel in the flesh, and have them have the opportunity to talk to them and ask them questions. It was pretty remarkable, actually. Well, I think the World Affairs Council is an excellent networking opportunity. It's a lot of very interesting people who are associated here from many walks of life. And as I said, I think it's important that we be reaching out to some of the younger people in the community, and the access that they have to some of the leaders. As I was looking here tonight, there are our politicians here. There are people that have been our diplomats around the world, our ambassadors. That sort of access is not easy to find. So the ability to meet with these people in small groups, and it's generally quite intimate, I think is a real opportunity for anyone in this community.
Well, the World Affairs Council of San Antonio is a really unique organization in that you get to interact with other people from our city that want to be better global citizens. And what does that mean? It really means that we want to be informed as to how the world affects San Antonio, and San Antonio plays a role in the world. And the most important thing to me is that the people that we interact with, we get to learn from each other while having fun doing it. One of the most memorable events that I've attended is right here at the San Antonio Country Club, when we had General Hayden, the former director of the National Security Agency and former director of the Central Intelligence Agency, right around the time of the Edward Snowden revelations. And obviously it was a very timely topic, and to have the ability to interact in person with someone that lives day to day what these intelligence agencies do, and be able to ask questions in person of General Hayden was very memorable, to hear how these topics that you see in the news affect our city, our country, and our world. And being able to do that in person with the person that actually is doing it is pretty interesting and hard to replicate. Well, I've had the pleasure of participating with the Young Professionals group of the World Affairs Council, and it is a networking format that is really not replicated anywhere else either, because we get together in events that are international in nature, but also fun. So events such as learning about Mexico through its street foods at Chef Johnny Hernandez's home, or learning about Japan through sushi and sake at Sushi with our fellow board member Alfonso Tomita, or being able to interact with all the fellow young professionals that are interested in world affairs at our World Quest trivia event, which is a very fun event. It's also pretty unique. So the people that you meet and what you get to learn from interacting with them, once again, while having fun, is something that's very unique.
My name is Greg Muenster. I'm current chairman of the board of the World Affairs Council of San Antonio. And in the event that you're not aware of the fact, the World Affairs Council is a national organization comprised of 90 member organizations throughout the United States. Any corporation that does international business or has any business interests in the global economy should be a member of the World Affairs Council of San Antonio. There is no better or more economical way to facilitate business opportunities and social contacts with an influential and internationally focused group of business leaders from South Texas. We offer many networking opportunities through our distinguished speaker series, our lectures, our diplomatic salons. There just are many opportunities where business people can interact with each other and learn what is going on in the world of business and in world affairs in general. Also, being a member of the World Affairs Council is a phenomenal way to introduce young, upcoming professionals, business proteges, who you would like to create into well-rounded, intelligent, internationally minded business professionals than having them participate in World Affairs Council events. Membership is your opportunity to also be associated with your peers and other professionals who have international businesses, for you to share ideas and exchange information. The past year for me as a member of the World Affairs Council has broadened my contacts and has influenced my thoughts. And I believe that I'm a better business professional as a result of my participation in the World Affairs Council. I would encourage any business in San Antonio that is not a corporate member of the World Affairs Council, to contact us for information about becoming a corporate member. I assure you, your membership will be both time and money well spent. By the way, a portion of your corporate membership dues goes to scholarships to support the next generation of young international leaders serving the San Antonio business community. I hope to see you soon at one of our upcoming World Affairs Council events.
Well, I've been privileged to be a member of the World Affairs Council for all the years I've been in San Antonio, and that's since, I believe, 2006. So here we are in 2015. I found every one of those years to be valuable. I came back to San Antonio with a truly international career, a Foreign Service of the United States and a U.S. Ambassador, 40 years in the end overseas. So there is that, one thing I can talk about is that relationship of others to the U.S. and the importance of the world, the impact of what's going on in the world, not only on San Antonio, but on individuals. If there's anything that I think is of importance for students, and I am a professor at the University of the Incarnate Word, it's to have ever greater understanding of the world in which they live and the importance of the world for them. When I think of the World Affairs Council and I think of student participation, I think of my own students who have come to World Affairs Council events. Many of them joined, but they've come to World Affairs Council events to hear lectures. So in essence, it's a very important lecture series, among the best that you're going to hear during a semester. Some of those who have spoken to us recently, the counselor of the Department of State, Tom Shannon. Tom was with me in Brazil years ago. He was our ambassador to Brazil as well. He spoke to the students about something really relevant for them, for San Antonio, for Texas, for the country, and that was last year, that great influx of Central American children and what to do about it. Ambassador Shannon was the point man for Secretary Kerry on that particular issue. My students listened, they had questions, they interacted with him. I could see that it was important for the students and also for the speaker, to tell the truth, but for the students to have this kind of interaction. The big world issues are dealt with at the World Affairs Council here in San Antonio. For example, again, I think of another Foreign Service colleague. We had Ryan Crocker, who had been ambassador to Iraq, part of a duo, General David Petraeus and Ambassador Ryan Crocker, working in those difficult years of trying to bring some order out of the chaos in Iraq in the mid-2000s. Very important for the students not only to hear Ryan Crocker talking about the U.S., Iraq, the future of the Middle East, the future of the U.S. in the Middle East, but then to be able to ask questions of him and to engage in a dialogue. But beyond just the lectures, it's important for the students to come. I see them dress sharp, look sharp, be sharp, ask sharp questions, and sit at the table with other colleagues from the World Affairs Council. So that's businessmen interested in world affairs. So that's civil servants. So that's people working with NGOs. Others who are older than the students and have had experience in the world and can impart that as well to the students. So, you know, they use that word networking. Well, the World Affairs Council of San Antonio is really good, I think, for networking for students. I think of university students. We have this great program whereby we enable certain high school students to come and participate in our events, and we fund that. And now we have a scholarship program going. So, tight connection between World Affairs Council of San Antonio, business, commerce, foreign policy, but students, universities and students. So if you are a student, think about it, come to some lectures, let's talk and look to your future in the world, and a future if you're here in town with the World Affairs Council of San Antonio. Thanks.
My name is Sherry Dowlatshahi. I have the privilege of working as Chief of Protocol and Head of the International Relations Office at the City of San Antonio. And I have been a member of the World Affairs Council for the last 4 years. Well, I've been involved, I actually got involved with the board early on, and so I have been serving on the board for the last 3 years, and I've been serving as the chair of the program committee for the last year. And for me, one of the biggest benefits being involved, whether it is being a member or serving on the board, has been the ability to share ideas and to share my passion for international affairs with people who have very similar interests, and also to be able to tap into a huge amount of expertise through the speakers we bring to San Antonio. I definitely see it as an opportunity to learn more. It certainly enhances me in my work and the information that I use in my day-to-day work at the city. We cannot not have a World Affairs Council in San Antonio. I am a strong believer in the value of this organization and what it brings and what it means to our community. A community, a city that is increasingly globally fluent, a community which is raising its global profile every day through the presence of people from all over the world in our city, and people who have an interest in events beyond our borders, people who want to learn about what's going on outside in the larger world. And so the World Affairs Council brings an opportunity to provide that level of expertise and knowledge, discussion and debate for our members and of course for our citizens, and is an integral part of the international activities that exist in San Antonio. We, in the City of San Antonio at the International Relations Office, consider the World Affairs Council a very important partner in our efforts in reaching out to take San Antonio out into the world and to bring the world to San Antonio. One of the things we try to do through our programs is to be relevant about the topics that we bring to our membership and to present up-to-date information, bring wonderful speakers who can address topics of the moment. And of course, this year, one of those wonderful speakers was Ambassador Paula Dobriansky, who came to speak about Russia and the Ukraine, a topic that attracted a huge amount of interest because it's still very current. As we move forward here in San Antonio with the preparations for our trip next month to Germany to attend the UNESCO 39th Conference for World Heritage Sites, and hopefully awaiting the vote of the UNESCO on the status of our 5 missions in San Antonio as a World Heritage Site. That would be, for instance, a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to then apprise our members about how it was that this process started, what was involved, all the international organizations that were involved, and that would be an example of a current event that touches our community very, very directly. And of course, for those who are familiar with the importance of World Heritage Sites around the world, you would know that this will really raise our profile again on a global level.
I'm Lila Cockrell, and I'm so happy to be here to talk about the World Affairs Council of San Antonio. Now, as background, my husband Sid and I moved here in 1956 in January. And I loved coming to San Antonio, but I was so sorry to miss two organizations that I had left behind. And one of them was the Dallas World Affairs Council. And it was a recently organized council in Dallas, headed by Neil Mallon, who was the head of Dresser Industries. And I just was so appreciative of it being founded. And they brought in wonderful lecturers, and it was just a marvelous organization. And another one was the Council for Support of the United Nations. And that was one that was headed by Judge Sarah T. Hughes. And she asked if I would be her vice chairman for that organization. And of course, later, she was the presiding judge who administered the oath of office to Lyndon Johnson after the sad and tragic assassination of President Kennedy. But at any rate, when we moved to San Antonio in 1956, with my husband accepting a position here, I looked around and there was no World Affairs Council here. But I soon busied myself as a mother in PTA and League of Women Voters and my church and other activities. And I was just delighted when Nelson Wolff and Doug Harlan were the ones who organized the World Affairs Council of San Antonio. Now, it fills a great need. I had looked around when I first came to San Antonio for some kind of an international organization, and I found one, and I found Mamie Dial, who was just a very special lady in San Antonio. And she had an international council of world affairs. And that international council was not one that just focused on issues as our present World Affairs Council does, and with lecturers. It was just sort of an international friendship group. And I can remember Miss Mamie extending friendship to the young officers who were here from many countries around the world, who had their young officers come for officers training at Lackland Air Force Base and learning the English language. And Miss Mamie would have branding ceremonies in her front yard and name them honorary Texans with a fake branding iron. And all of these young officers would go home with their certificates of being honorary Texans. But nevertheless, that was not filling the need. The need was to have an organization that was truly a World Affairs Council, issue-oriented, that would be the opportunity for San Antonians to expand their understanding and knowledge of international affairs by bringing in top speakers, persons who are in service in the diplomatic service, and bringing that to San Antonio, not only to an adult office, a group of adults, but also expanding to youth and to young people's activities, opportunities for young people to compete in their knowledge of international affairs. It has been an absolutely wonderful contribution to San Antonio and, in fact, the world, because it has increased our knowledge, our interface with the international scene, and I think bringing us attention to our young people who compete at the international level or the national level, and it just is a great asset to San Antonio. So if you are thinking about whether you should belong to San Antonio World Affairs Council, please do it. It's important. We would welcome you to our membership. It is an open membership. You don't have to have someone extend a personal invitation. You can pick up your phone. You can phone the office of the World Affairs Council of San Antonio, and we would welcome you to join us as a new member.
The most important benefit to me, in terms of being a member of the World Affairs Council of San Antonio, is it provides me with lifelong learning, which I think is so important to being a good citizen, to understanding our world, to functioning in this very global society. I'm constantly learning by having access to remarkable speakers that come from all over the world to tell us what's happening in that global society. It was such a privilege for me to serve as both chair of the board and president of the World Affairs Council, and I said at every single meeting, there is no board of trustees that I admire more, nor a membership. The whole membership is comprised of intelligent, interesting people, curious about our world. It's just been a marvelous experience. The mission of the World Affairs Council of San Antonio is, quote, bringing the world to San Antonio and San Antonio to the world. We focus on that mission, understanding that in today's society, one cannot know only about our local city or state or even country. This is a global society, and we must be informed about the whole world. World Affairs Council of San Antonio gives us that opportunity. The most memorable event of the past 20 years of membership in the World Affairs Council has to be the annual International Citizen Dinner of a couple of years ago when we brought former President Bill Clinton. It was an absolute highlight. We packed the house. His charm and wit and high intelligence provided an evening that none of us will ever forget.
The most important thing for me in my experience as a faculty member of international trade at the University of the Incarnate Word is to better understand the opportunities that students have for engaging in the community and becoming a member of the World Affairs Council. I teach MBA students who are 30 and 40 years old, and career opportunities are very important for them. They value the membership at the student level or the professional level, and they value the meetings that they participate in. They meet people, they come away with contacts, and they find career opportunities that they never would have found otherwise. Some of the meetings that they have enjoyed most have included the meetings about Ukraine and Russia. During that presentation, by an ambassador who came to us from Harvard to speak to the council, we had perhaps 30 students from Ukraine who came and asked questions, visited with her speaker, had photos taken with her, and several of those were my students. And when I made those students aware of the meeting, they collected the other Ukrainian students around them, and they all attended as a group. That particular meeting was open to the public, and they thoroughly enjoyed learning more about the World Affairs Council. I've enjoyed hearing ambassadors. I've enjoyed hearing people who live in San Antonio speak about topics of international import. And I've enjoyed the friendships that I have had at a personal level in the council. I've been involved in the council for decades. I've been on the board. I have been board chair. And I've been on every committee that the council has offered. I've developed programs as president of the San Antonio Fulbright Association. I have also had the opportunity for our Fulbright Association to co-sponsor with the World Affairs Council many meetings in the homes of board members and other community leaders in San Antonio. I've also valued knowing many of the founders who really organized the council in 1982. Many of them are with us today and they attend meetings. You would know these San Antonio leaders. They are the people who built San Antonio, whose names are on buildings in San Antonio and whose families are very well known to all of us. And we now have third generation board members from those founding board members in San Antonio. So for me, I would say that I am an educator. I've also been in business. I've also worked in the federal government. And all these years, I've had international relations at the root of my interest. And I'm happy to have found that interest satisfied in the World Affairs Council.
I have been a board member of the World Affairs Council of San Antonio for many years. I have had the great honor of having been chairman, and I have tremendously benefited from the association with this fine organization. I came to San Antonio from Mexico and established my company here, and the World Affairs Council really gave me a tremendous window to the world and world affairs. From that window, I could look out and be participatory to many experiences that really enriched my life, and both professionally and personally. My great experience at the council and unique opportunity that I was afforded by being a member was when I was given the opportunity to participate and become a board member of the umbrella organization, the World Affairs Council of America in DC. This organization serves the 90 plus councils throughout the United States, and gives you a perception not only of the very rich and interesting programming in San Antonio, but gave me a great chance to meet with many other board members and executive directors, presidents of the various councils throughout the nation, and offered us an opportunity to travel to these councils and learn more, networking on the prospects for fundraising opportunities, programming, and diversity that is so rich within the whole program. One very significant program that is provided by the organization in DC is the Academic World Quest. These congregates 4,000 plus students throughout the United States into a competition where the winning teams from 40, 50 councils send their representatives to DC for the final competition. And this is really an extraordinary way for us, all of us, to be able to engage young students into a program that really gets them exposed in a very serious way to foreign affairs, globalization, and covering all areas of politics, social, economics, and these extraordinarily tenacious and bright students who experience global affairs in this very arduous competition will be, no doubt, many of them significant candidates for the State Department, and will represent the U.S. From a government perspective in an official capacity, as well as I'm sure they will be international business leaders with this exposure. So if the role of the council is to expose and educate the American public to foreign affairs and globalization, this academic World Quest program is something of extraordinary value that touches not only San Antonio, but many, many cities within the United States, and culminate in DC for the final competition. So that has been something of significant effect as an experience that I have had in my life in this organization.
Well, let me say, when Doug Harlan and I, a Republican, I'm a Democrat, formed this in 1982, the reason we did, San Antonio really was not an international city at that time. We knew that it had the opportunity to grow into one. So we got together, got a great board of directors. Marie Swartz worked full-time for no salary to get it going. And I think what we wanted to do then now is playing out today. And you cannot live in this world and not be an international city and not be involved in what's happening across the world. It's not, we don't have closed borders anymore. So the whole idea was to open up San Antonio to international development, and I think that's been its biggest benefit. I believe it was the year we started. I went to the airport and picked up a young man by the name of Carlos Salinas de Gortari. And he was the minister of the budget and planning, I think, at the time. And picked him up, he rode in the back seat, drove him there. We had a good long talk. He spoke in Spanish, although he could very well speak in English. The reason that's so memorial is that later on he becomes president of Mexico. He's the one that helped bring the signing of the NAFTA agreement here. He's the one that helped us get the North American Bank here in San Antonio and really put San Antonio on the international map in 1992.
Hello, my name is Gloria Dilly, and I am honored to say that I'm a third-generation World Affairs Council member. My grandfather, Marshall Steves, was one of the founding members, and my father, Edward Steves, was president and is currently a board member with me. I've enjoyed being a member of the World Affairs Council. I was working at the White House and returned back home to San Antonio and knew I wanted to be involved with the educational part of foreign policy. Working for Laura Bush, we promoted the foreign aspect of the tradition of learning with women of the West. So I immediately asked my father to help me get involved with the World Affairs Council. The mission to educate and to foster relationships that promote us to speak in these forums where we can talk about all various foreign policy issues has been one of the greatest assets to being a member of the council. I've enjoyed one of my favorite series every year. We do a series on Mexico, and it's always sold out. The luncheon's immediately sold out. And it's because Mexico is so close to San Antonio. I think that it's a very inspirational speakers, and that it's a topic that's very controversial, and so it's very well attended. Each year I'm shocked because I feel like the adults are going to have these awe-inspiring questions and the harder questions, but then you see these children come up from different high schools, and the questions that they ask to these various leaders and community leaders are just shocking, and it's great that their thought processes are reaching that far and they're thinking globally. And that's what the World Affairs Council is about. It's about promoting foreign policy, awareness of foreign policy and education, not only for people that are my age, my father's age, my grandfather's age, but for the new generation, the children of San Antonio. I think it has been a grave asset to San Antonio to have the World Affairs Council. The social relationships that I've established in the organization have been very valuable. I'm among all of the community leaders, and to hear their opinions on foreign policy and things that are going on in the world currently gives me insight and really provokes thought into what should happen next. I might have a strong opinion about something, but once I hear another point of view, I will change my mind completely. And it's forums like the World Affairs Council that allow you to open your mind and educate yourself through these lectures and series that we have.
The World Affairs Council has brought all types of people of what I refer to as history makers. They're participants in history, but they make the history. And they've been very important to informing our community. Anyone that's either involved in church or family or politics or public service, the more informed you are, the better the decision you can make. And that's the key that the World Affairs Council has brought. I was invited to be a member of the founding member of the board of World Affairs Council. That's the time that Judge Nelson Wolff and Doug Harlan served. I'd been involved with the VIA board and had a long history of involvement with church and community. And I was pleased that they invited me, and I got to meet some really people of public service that are involved, that are well informed. And they, in turn, the board itself has a history of bringing people that are not only movers and shakers, but are people that care about our community and our world. And such people as Dr. Kissinger, and of course President Bill Clinton, and others that have made a big difference in our communities and our nation. I am proud to have been part of the founding board. But the thing is, the World Affairs Council offers people, the people we see on TV, the national acclaim and national fame, they have been brought here by the World Affairs Council, and that gives not only importance to the council itself, but it gives importance to our community. So it's a very, very impressive, very important organization that I'm proud to have been a part of.
I would begin by saying that when Nelson approached, and actually he approached Dora Hauser and I together, because we were together that day, and talked about the importance of having a World Affairs Council, and would we be willing to serve on it. And I could see the benefit to Dora serving on it, because she came out of academia, working with UTSA, and I questioned why he would want me on the board, except I was on the Chamber of Commerce. I'd been on the first Centro 21 committee. I'd been chairman of the Urban Renewal Board. There'd been any number of things that I've done. I was very involved in home builders, and we were getting to the point where we were a successful business. We'd been in business 25 years, and our business was taking us many different places that we did not expect to go, and a great deal of them to Europe and the Orient. And I began to think about, everybody knew about Tokyo and Berlin and any of those wonderful cities, but nobody had heard of San Antonio when I would say where I was from. And I began to question, how are we presenting San Antonio to the world? And we started doing our little bit on our trips, but in working on the World Affairs Council, I did see a chance to learn more myself, to be educated on things that I just had not had either an opportunity or the time to get involved. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much. It just came at a time where everything came together, and I was one of the very few business women in San Antonio at that time.
The World Affairs Council is extremely important to me personally, my family, and of course HEB. Primarily because of our interest in world affairs. We source products from all over the world. And of course, the sourcing and the supply chain has its challenges. So it's always wonderful to understand what's going on in the world and how that impacts our customers in the end with the products that we provide them. And of course, from a personal standpoint, I love to travel and like to know what's going on everywhere that I go. And then of course, in my work with HEB, the World Affairs Council has been a venue by which I've hired at least 4 people that I've met there, and of course made wonderful friends with whom I consider friends now, and expanded that social network of like minds that we're all interested in what's going on in the world. Because of course in San Antonio we enjoy such wonderful quality of life that we forget that there are other things going on outside of the world. And being a small town / big city, we are constantly being entertained with all the activity that's going on in San Antonio that takes up every free moment of the day outside of work. So we love to have these events and participate in them and attend them at the World Affairs Council and hear firsthand not just accounts of things that have happened, but of things that are going to happen in the world, draw our own conclusions. I call it intelligent networking. It's nice to enjoy a glass of wine after listening to a very world-known speaker about a topic that's current, that we can form our own opinions on and have intelligent conversation. So it's another way of socializing, at least for me. And of course, professionally for HEB, it has served as a recruiting platform for us because we want to hire folks with global citizens of the world, essentially, that can help us grow our business for that diverse customer that we serve in South Texas. So I hope you'll consider joining the World Affairs Council. It's what it's meant for me, and of course my colleagues that are not only members of the board, but also active members that serve in any different venue that we have at the World Affairs Council, and of course enjoy all the programs that it has to offer.